everybody, welcome back to another video in our second unit on EDA. In this video, we're going to continue working with the taxis dataset from the previous couple of videos, but now we're going to focus on working with dates in pandas. So if you're a current Math 10 student, this is one of our student learning outcomes, so it'll be a pretty exciting video. And just to remind you what DF looks like, again, in kind of earlier in this notebook, I have DF stored as the taxis dataset. Here I'm taking a random sample of 3 rows. And we can see the kind of information that's stored is pickup and drop-off dates. We have number of passengers, the fare, that kind of thing. So kind of first exercise is saying convert the pickup and drop-off columns to date-time values using the pandas function to_datetime. Store the results as a new column in DF called picktime and datetime. So to get started, let's just take a look at DF of pickup. Now, if we run this, we can see it's saying the D type is object. And for us, or in this particular example, what that means is that these are being stored as strings. So these are just normal strings. They're not datetime objects, anything like that. So our goal is to convert them to datetime values. So just as an example, I can do pd dot to_datetime. And then I'm going to pass the column df of pickup. So then let's take a look. So it looks almost exactly the same, but notice the D type has changed from object, so here's string, to a datetime 64 object. So okay, that's looking good. Now, this hasn't actually affected the original column, so we're going to store it in a new column in just a little bit, but I first want to show you a few smaller examples of how this function works. So one thing I can do is let's make a variable called today. So I'm going to say today equals, and it's August 11th, 2023. So I'm going to say August 11, 2023. So there's today. Again, I can call type of today, and this will be a string, so very similar to the pickup column. Now notice I can do, let's do ts for timestamp equals pd.to_datetime of today. And we can take a look at TS, and we can see that this is a timestamp object, so it's the date, and then it's assuming that this is midnight. Something else we could do is I could say, well, it's ts.day of year, and this is saying it's the 223rd day of the year. Another thing I could do is I could say ts.dayname, and it's saying Friday. That is correct. When I'm filming this, it is Friday, so happy Friday. Now, kind of something confusing. Notice day of the year is an attribute versus day name is a method. It's very confusing and not at all obvious why one of these is an attribute and one of them is a method. For our class, I'd say I'm never going to expect you to kind of have these small details memorized, just something to keep in mind. If I wanted to see all of the methods and attributes available, I could do dir for directory and then say ts. Now, you can ignore these thunder methods, the double underscore methods. These are typically things that we don't use directly, but if I scroll down, I can see things like ceiling, combine, day, day name, day of week, lots of different options. So, okay, that was a short example showing how this pd.toDatetime works and kind of some of the methods and attributes that it has. Let's kind of go back to the original problem. It's saying I want to make new columns called picktime and datetime that kind of convert pickup and drop-off columns to datetime values. So let's do it. So I'm going to make a new cell really quick. And the way that we can set new columns is I say df, and then I put the name of the column that I want, so let's call it picktime, equals, and now pd.toDatetime. And here we want this to be pickup. Similarly, we want to do that for drop time. So pd.toDatetime, and now df of drop off. So good. Maybe let's take a look at our data frame really quick just to see that we really did add these 2 new columns. So when we add new columns, these are going to be passed all the way at the end. So now we can see picktime, datetime. So this is looking good. And let's see what's next on our list to do. So it's saying make a new column day containing the day of the week of the pickup. Use the DT accessor and then the method day name. So what is this DT accessor? Basically, when we're working with date time objects in pandas, if I'm applying kind of this day name method to the series, I first need to tell pandas I'm specifically going after date time objects. So let me show you an example of what I mean. So let's take a look at df of pick time. So remember, we converted these to date time objects. If I try calling day name directly, this is going to give an error. So it's saying series object has no attribute day name. So I first need to specify that I want to work with date time. So I do that using an accessor. So here we have df pick time. I say .dt .day underscore name. And now this is telling me the day of the week. So it might be confusing, especially if you're a current student of Math 10, kind of when do you need to use these accessors versus when do the methods work without it. I will say for Math 10, the 2 times I expect you to know, or kind of to have memorized is DT for things like day name, and then a little bit later we'll see STR for string, the string accessor. So these types of examples I do expect you to know. So okay, we were able to get the day name, but now remember I want to create a new column called day, so let's do it. So I'll say df of day equals, and then I want it to be this code that we've written here. So looks good. Now let's just take a look at df of day. And this is looking nice. So this is days of the week. Exactly what we wanted. Next exercise is saying make a new column duration which stores how long the ride took. Now remember we created 2 new columns, pick time and drop time, that are these date time objects. So because we did this conversion, we can just subtract the drop time from the start time or the pick time, and that will tell me how long the ride took. So this only works because we converted to date time. So let's do it. I'm going to say df of duration equals df of drop time minus df of pick time. So that's looking good. Let's take a look at duration. So it's saying here, like in the first ride stored in df, it's saying that ride took 6 minutes. So let's take a look at, let's do df.head and let's look at the first 3 rows. And we can see here, even to make it a little bit better, what if we did something like df.iloc? Let's take first 3 rows and then first 2 columns, because remember, first 2 columns are going to give pickup and drop off. So let's see here, I'm going to expand this just a little bit. So this first ride, it's saying it started at 8:21 p.m. and went to 8:27 p.m. So that certainly is 6 minutes, so that looks good. Very last question is saying, what are the types of these 4 columns we just made? And I guess this should say like D types, data types. So again, the way we can do that is let's look at df.dtypes. And let's scroll down. So the 4 columns we added are pick time, drop time, day, and duration. So pick time and drop time, these are date time objects. Day is just a string, and that makes sense, right? Because if we scroll back up to day, these are days of the week, right? So these are just going to be strings. And very last object is time delta. You can think of delta meaning difference, and that also makes sense because remember, how did we define the duration? Well, it was the difference between 2 times. Great. So again, quick intro to working with dates in pandas. We'll get more practice with this in future videos, but for now, this is a good place to stop. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.